Hi, everyone. So, regulation panel. Céline. Céline, you have a PhD in private international law. You're a partner at the Yellaw law firm, where you're running the blockchain department. You co-founded the Dodo Bank last year. Yeah, I've noted. And you're a well-known speaker on legal fintech issues. And you're among the few experts to know everything about the set of blockchain laws that passed in Malta a few weeks ago. So you will tell us your view on the blockchain island to let us know if Malta is the new El Dorado for crypto entrepreneurs. Jean-Baptiste? Jean-Baptiste, you're a senior partner at Fwpa law firm, where you help startups, big companies, and non-for-profits to deal with digital law, mainly. Previously, you were Chief Legal Officer of the Wikimedia Foundation and a Senior Advisor for Digital Economy at the Office of the French Minister of Finance. Big deal. And you're especially active in cryptocurrencies, ICO, GDPR, free software, and fake news. Yeah. You will shed some light for us on what's happening right now at the French Parliament, where the Pact bill is under negotiation. Chia. So Chia, you're the managing director of OCQ's Queen Street law firm, a ranked Singapore legal practice, member of the Osborne Clark network. You have a programming engineering degree. Interesting for a lawyer. And your worldwide history of public speaking about blockchain is impressive. I track it down to 2014, I think. And you will talk about Singapore. Singapore is reportedly one of the most crypto-friendly country, so you will elaborate for us. First, I would like to talk about the general positioning in France, in Malta, and in Singapore about crypto. Any regulatory requirements for token issuer? Any legislation specifically targeted to ICOs? So, Céline, Malta is the first European country to regulate blockchain, and you told me that what's amazing is that Malta not only regulates the use cases of the blockchain, but the tech itself. So, what does that mean?
Okay, yes, so Malta wants to be the blockchain island. So they voted 3 bills, one for the technology, one for the token, and another one for the crypto. So for me, it's a good idea to create in Malta 2 firms, one just for the ICO and another one, you know, just for the business. But I want to be clear with all the investors and entrepreneurs. Okay, Malta is for sure a crypto-friendly island, and they want to become in the European Union the country for crypto and blockchain system. But we can discuss after about that, but it's not so easy. Because we have also other countries who wants to be a good place for that. Maybe Singapore, and why not after France? Why not?
Yeah, Chia. Chia, you told me that your position was to let the tech emerging before regulating, but you also told me that Singapore government wants to regulate more closely tokens. So you and your partner has worked on 20 ICOs. So how does it work?
Singapore is a very strict country in terms of the laws. When people say they are crypto-friendly, it doesn't mean that Singapore has got no laws. Yeah. Still, last year I think we are like Singapore is like top 5, and this year we are probably going to be like top 3 of our ICO launches. If you want to issue your ICO or your tokens, or you have your blockchain projects in Singapore, you have to follow the rules, and there are strict rules, and there are more rules coming up. Principally, like Switzerland, we recognize payment, utility, and securities tokens. And to date, no securities tokens have been issued, as far as I'm aware, principally because if you do issue securities tokens, then all the securities laws will apply to your activity. Currently, all the ICO activities and the blockchain activities relate to utility and payment. We are trying to make a distinction between payment and utility, just like Switzerland. But as a contact in Ubisoft just told me, it may not necessarily be that easy to make a distinction between payment and utility tokens. If you ask me to speculate, then I think that all utility tokens are potentially payment tokens, although the reverse is not true. Singapore has got new laws coming up. We are trying to regulate more the payment token rather than utilities token. I think the new framework might be interesting and might be challenging if it is true. It is true that all utility tokens are payment tokens.
Jean-Baptiste?
Yes, with regards to the French ecosystem, it's actually quite favorable today, I think, to ICOs. Well, the government is in favor of ICOs. They've expressed it numerously and vehemently. The regulator is also studying a lot the way ICOs are going on in France, and they like it. There is no trouble with that. The main pain point is, of course, practical. It is how do you do an ICO when you're French and you're a French company, and what are the implications globally? How will it go with your subscribers that are in Singapore, in the US, or anywhere else? But as of today, I tend to think that the French legislation, as it is today, is already quite good because we have all framework. We know how to do a corporation. We know how to do how to deal with financial regulations and everything. It's already clear enough, I would say, and one of the proof is that the upcoming legislation is quite simple. Basically, what we will have is an optional visa from the French regulator, which is a simple way to say that the current framework is already there. What's needed maybe is a little bit more of people putting it into practice, so we have more experience with it, and then we can work out with the main pain points, but which are practical, not legislative. Like, for example, opening a bank account or these kind of things, which can be difficult, but it's difficult everywhere, so it's not specific to France or anywhere else.
Okay, let's move to the pain points. I think that we have crypto entrepreneurs here, and they're all facing major pain points. And it seems that we had that talk, Chia, what we call the bankers issue, and I was surprised to hear that the issue is the same in Singapore than in France. In France, French crypto entrepreneurs claim that publicly that they do have difficulties, major difficulties to open bank accounts. So how does it work in Singapore? Are you all optimistic about this situation with banks and accountants?
Well, we have to understand that even though there is a lot of publicity on blockchain technology and ICOs, ICO activities remain a non-mainstream activity, and so is blockchain innovation. And I would say that blockchain as an ecosystem is an emerging one. It is definitely not mainstream. And because blockchain and ICOs are not mainstream, you'll find that even in Singapore, there is no mainstream support for banking from bankers, from accountants, and from tax advisors. So the situation in Singapore is such. So if you are to launch a blockchain project in Singapore or fundraise by way of an ICO, then you will have to be very familiar with the token economy, the crypto economy space, in order for you to be able to raise your funds successfully and develop your project successfully without having to without having to rely on the mainstream banking, accounting, and tax support.
So how do you do if your clients cannot open a bank account?
Yeah. So if you go to a bank in Singapore and you say, oh, I want to open a bank account because my company deals with cryptocurrency, chances are you're not able to do that. So why I say you need to understand the token economy is because if you want to handle fiat money, it is ordinarily a problem. Then you have to think whether you can just handle cryptocurrency, for example, Ethereum to the token that you're going to issue, and whether you can work within the cryptocurrency space, right? Receive Ethereum and pay your developers and advisors and everybody else in Ethereum, and avoid the need to have a bank account altogether. So that might be one solution. Another possible solution is look elsewhere for a country that might be friendlier to be able to open your bank account somewhere else. That might be an alternative. But if you are a traditional company that relies on fiat currency, then you face a lot of difficulty, principally because you do not have that mainstream professional services support.
What's the situation in Malta, Céline?
Oh, in Malta, it's quite easier because when you organize an ICO, you have to choose a Fwpa agent. It's a person who will do the link between your company and all the authorities. So with a Fwpa agent, you can choose after one accountant, one banker, and all the people you want to be and you choose and who are able to help you to do an ICO. So you can open just a bank account when you are a company. It could be a trading company or also an holding company. So it's possible. If you are a citizen from the European Union, it's of course easier, but it will take between 6 weeks and 12 weeks. Okay, it's just for the traditional bank account. And after that, if you want to use crypto, it's more complicated, and the government work on it because maybe you know, but Binance is now in Malta. So if Binance is in Malta, for sure we will have a bank, maybe a kind of Binance bank. I don't know, perhaps, but for sure, before the end of the year, I hope we will have a bank system in Malta with crypto. So for sure, they work on it. But now you can open a bank account, traditional one, if you are a Maltese company. not at this time a crypto account, but maybe at the end of the year.
Okay, hopefully. Jean-Baptiste, you told me that you had some clever ideas to open bank accounts in France.
Just two things, because the problem is easy to understand. If you're a bank and you see people coming up with cryptocurrencies and stuff like that, wanting to do an ICO, well, you will be afraid. And so it's a matter of trust between the bank and the company. And it's a real matter of trust. It means convincing the banker. And it's not a matter of bank, it's not because BNP will do an ICO with someone that they will do it with anyone. It's really a matter of trust between the company and their banker. And so the solution is, there are solutions. One of the solutions that we actually enacted was, for example, to separate between what will be done in cryptocurrencies and what will be done in fiat. And for the fiat part, in order to ensure that people who pay will actually get something at the end of the ICO or they will get refunded, which is usually a major issue. Like the regulator in France want people to be refunded if the ICO doesn't go to the end, okay? And so the bank was like, okay, but we will not do the escrow system. An escrow is when you put money in deposit and you wait until the end of the sale to deliver the money to the company. So we set up an escrow system with a bar association. And it worked. It's exactly what's already happening, for example, for merger and acquisitions or earnouts or stuff like that. And it involved a bit of negotiations, but it works fine. And as of today, you have people paying, the money goes to the bar association, and then when the ICO ends, it goes to the company. It's simple. And so for the bank, it's a super safe mechanism because the money will be vetted, if you want, by the bar association. And it's something that I've not seen elsewhere than in France, but it's an example of the way you can use an existing legislative framework to actually make stuff works. And it's fine, and it's not that complicated to set up. But it's the trouble usually is that you have people doing ICOs who are not used to the classical economic mechanisms. And so they will try to come up with something new, when what you need to do is to try to get something that's already working and just tweak it a bit so that it will work fine. And maybe it will take 2 weeks or 3 weeks or maybe 8 weeks, but it will work. And it's always better than trying to imagine new mechanisms that will maybe never see the light of the day. You see, that works and it's fine, it's working and it's okay and it's safe for everyone.
Yes, we discussed about that and I think it's a very good idea because when you use the CARPA fund, the CARPA system, you know, it's a system only for lawyers. It's very secure for everybody, for lawyers, for investors, and also for the company who is able to do the ICO. And for me, it's I never think about that before, but it's a very, very good idea. It's very easier when you are a lawyer. It's very easier to open. It's a kind of bank account. It's the same, and it could be a good solution if you do something in France. For me, it's a very good system and a very good solution. And for me, it's possible to do that in each country. You can do that also in Singapore. Maybe you have a kind of bank account for lawyers. So why not? And you don't have to use the normal system. So it's very, very good. For me, I think it's a very good idea.
It's not a new question. I don't know, for people who already did merger and acquisitions, for example, people who sold their companies, or sometimes you have you have people selling their companies, and they get a bit of money and a bit of money and a bit of money, and at the end of the day, one of the buyers doesn't pay, or something happens and the operation fails, and then everybody gets its money back, and it's super classical. And I mean, banks and the bar association and lawyers are used to do that for hundreds of millions. So, I mean, an ICO then looks like something normal and quite safe, actually, because you will raise what in fiat? If you do a normal ICO today, you will raise between maybe 500,000 euro and maybe a few million euro in fiat. You see? And that's cool because it will allow you to have a little bit of grease at the beginning of the process. It will help the process to begin with. And of course, your bank will be more easy to work with if you already have like 2 million in your bank account once you try to get the crypto back into your bank account. And that's the way to do. But you need to make a separation between what is crypto, what is fiat, and then you need to make a separate agreement on what is fiat to have it work. But it's fun, and it could work everywhere, I think so. Even in Malta or what.
Well, thank you for the suggestion. I think it's quite an interesting idea to have our bar association act as the escrow account holder. In Singapore, Singapore attracts investors and also projects from a lot of Asian countries, as well as the America. And some parts of Europe. And what I see is that if you handle fiat and crypto, you tend to have more things to worry about. Yeah, principally because you still have to consider a lot of many other rules that might be in place. So at the moment, what Singapore generally is doing is to try to handle crypto to crypto by way of smart contracts, or more and more service providers in the crypto space are coming up with platforms for you to launch your offering. And these are platforms that also have got an escrow function. And if you use those platforms, they help you with the know your client and anti-money laundering KYC AML rules, and also be able to hold the crypto funds and to ensure that everything is in order. And in fact, one platform that I know of says to me that they have tied up with some banks in Germany that if you launch this your crypto on the platform, then because you are cleared on the KYC, then certain banks in Germany would allow you to open a bank account and also ultimately receive fiat currency. So there seems to be some more and more such service providers in the market, and at the moment, we, at least in Singapore, are relying mainly on smart contracts and more and more such platforms to get around having to handle fiat currency and cryptocurrency.
What about tax on tokens?
It depends. It's quite. It depends. First, it depends where your company is located. And in France. And in France, for example, token. Well, the way you will do it is also quite a bit strange. You will do it like if, for example, do you know how farmers pay taxes? Farmers, like who buy cows and stuff like that.
I don't.
They invest on something that will have value later on, okay? And so what they do is that they say, okay, because you will get a lot of money first, and of course the government will come to you and say, oh, this is a lot of benefit. We want you to pay taxes on this. But if you do a utility token, and once again, I think we need to keep away from security tokens because security regulation, it exists. So we don't really want to deal with that. But if you're dealing with utility tokens, so you will get a lot of money in order to make a service to other people. Okay? And if you go to the end of the day, it's just like some time on your servers. And something will happen on your servers, and for every token, your customers, the people who own the token, will be able to, well, use your servers a bit to do something. Every time they will do it, you will have to pay for that. Because you will pay electricity, you will pay the servers, the development, and stuff like that. So what you need to do is actually to explain that all that money you get will mean that you will have to deduct what you will spend in order to allow all these smart contracts to execute later on. And that's a negotiation that you need to have with the tax authorities. But it's actually quite doable, and that's why I was mentioning farmers, for example. But as of today, farmers do the same thing, and it's something that we're used to do everywhere else in French companies. Just, of course, not so many people have been connecting like the farm issues with like the Bitcoin issues, but it actually works fine. And if you want to know, farmers have been doing that for so long that today they even have a tariff list allowing them to know for that kind of for example, for poultry, they can deduct that amount, for cows, they can deduct that amount, and so on. We are not at that level of precision with tokens, but I'm sure that's what we want to do. You will get like 10 millions this year. You know that these 10 millions, in order to make it work, you will have to spend 9 millions, so you make 1 million benefit, you will pay taxes on 1 million.
Very clear.
In Malta, for me the same. We have to talk just about the utility token, not security token, of course. Malta use not a so complicated system. You have to create two companies. One, the holding, okay, and another one, the trading company. And if you use that system, you have, it's not a paradise island and the fisc, it could be, it seems to be, but it's not. And you have to pay also taxes. Depends of the of if it's quite like the farmers or another one. But at the end, you have to pay some things. But it's less than in France. Sorry, for sure. You have to pay. I think it's around maybe 20%, something like that, taxes, not 30 like in France, or I don't know, in Singapore, but you have to pay taxes, but less than the rest of the European Union, of course.
Okay, and in Singapore?
Tax is not absolutely clear to me in Singapore. What my tax consultants tell me is that the tax follows the accounting treatment, and so you have to look at the accountant for you to decide how you could treat the tax. There is no capital gains tax in Singapore. The tax is on the revenue and profit. This is an issue. Again, back to the problem about having some more and more mainstream support. So what we in Singapore have to try to do is to educate and to reach out to more accountants and tax advisors and bankers for them to understand more about the economy, and pending that. At this stage, practically, if you are going to develop a blockchain project and you believe in it, and then you want to do a initial coin offering to raise funds, which makes sense because after all, you have to distribute your tokens in one form or another, in one way or another. Best way is still by way of an ICO, I suppose. Then you have to ask yourself how much you're going to raise, and why do you have to raise like $400 million US, right? Maybe 10 million US is good enough for you because you are just raising it to develop a core, so that you can pay your advisors, pay your developers. In the end, you know, you may not, you're not supposed to make money out of ICO. Yeah, you're supposed to have a revenue and then expense, and basically you're supposed to expense everything out, practically, and that's one way to look at the tax problem.
Yeah, exactly. When you do a company, you do an ICO, you need to spend the money. And if you spend the money, you won't pay taxes on anything, because at the end of the day, you will have no benefits. And in France and everywhere else in the world, nearly everywhere else, you pay taxes on your benefits as a company, not as an individual. And we see a lot of people who want to do ICOs, but who are not used to the way companies work. And so they think they will pay taxes on their global revenues. But no, it's not true. You will pay taxes on your benefits at the end of the year, or at the end of like several years. So it's really an accountant issue. You need to have a good accountant and to spend the money. That's it.
Good advisors. That's what we need in the space.
Maybe you can create two companies. One as just a kind of holding company, and another one just for the ICO company. It could be the same for the bank account. It's the same. One bank account for the traditional company, and another one just for the ICO company. So, and it's very easy. When you do two companies, it's very easy for you after to use your money and to invest and to pay developers and to pay the accountant, the lawyer, everybody. It's very easy.
Let's see what our audience thinks. I'm sure they have questions for you. So, question for experts.
Hello, I'm Abel from the Society Company. I'm working like starts working for about 1 year in industry and blockchain. I have a question. If we raise the money in 29 December, what's up? In the 29 December of the year, if we raise this money, what's going to happen? I have no benefit, I have no working for 4 days. What's up for paying the taxes to the government? If I raise the money for the ICO in the 29 December, so I got all this money, I have to pay taxes immediately. And I have no benefits, no work. What's up?
No, that's when you need an accountant. Because he will help you to actually plan the spends and everything, the spending and so on. It's a classical issue. So it's an issue that there are a lot of companies who actually make a lot of money in December, like toy selling companies and stuff like that. Well, they don't pay all their taxes on January 1st. That's not the way it works, you see. They plan for the spending they will do the next year and the year after and so on. But that's an accountant job. It's not a lawyer's job, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
Same for all the companies. You know, at the end of the year, if you want a good year, you have to do a lot of bills and invoices at the end of the year to say, okay, my results are good. But after that, you can use your money the year after. It's not a problem. You have to work with an accountant, of course, but the good one.
Just an advice, for example. I think it's the same in other countries, but in France, if you create your company today, the end of your first fiscal year, your first tax year, will not be this year, it will be next year. So we'll actually have 16 or 17 months before your the end of your first tax year. You see, so instead of 1 year, the first time you make a tax declaration, you can add up to 2 years instead of 1.
That's the VAT declaration in France. We make it like immediately after. If I make a company in 2015, I have to make my declaration in 2016. It's like 3 or 4 days after. Before May, we make like in France.
If you create a company today,
yeah,
you do the ICO in December this year. Okay,
yeah.
You will pay taxes. You will accumulate all your spending of next year in your first tax declaration. Will not be on January 1st. 2019, it will be in January 1st, 2020.
It's not
the first one.
It's not depend of the close of the dates or something for the company? No? Don't I have to say the close?
One bonus year if you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. So that you say that in blockchain industry, legally, it's the same thing that it's ordinary company. Yeah, it's no difference
because
between
it's a company. Because you have to create a company. So, and it's the same. If you want to create a company for lawyers, or if you want to create a company for other things, it's the same with the blockchain. It's quite the same. And in France, there is. Just to compare, in Malta, we have a specific regulation for blockchain system, and in France, I think we will have next year for sure, but we can do ICO too in France because we have regulation, and for us, it's the same to use the civil code or to use the common law or to use just the good bill in Malta. For us, it's the same. We have to use regulation system and we have to choose if it's a blockchain company or just a normal company, excuse my example, normal
classical.
company, it's classical company, it's the same. It's the same. And it's the same. When you will create a company in France, you can choose. You have to use a CERFA, and you just have to choose. I will pay my taxes in 1 year, in 2 years. You have the choice.
Okay. The only difficulty is the bank account. Yeah, the same company, the same regulation, but not the same account.
Okay. No, you can have the same account. It's not necessarily at all. It will depend. I mean, it's just work. For example, as I explained, in France today, if you want to open a bank account, it's doable. But it's doable in Malta, it's doable in Singapore. It will just mean a little bit more of work than a normal company would have to in order to open its bank account.
To convince the banker. But it's the same for every company. You have to convince your banker you have a good idea.
Okay, here we go.
All right, I think we've got time for one more question.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for presenting today. So my question is about if you're doing fundraising or even revenue based on other tokens, other blockchain currencies, which can be quite volatile. And if you're talking about paying taxes on something, if you're raising money based on something that can go way up or way down in value, at what point do you judge that value based at the moment that the ICO ended or at the time you pay taxes many months or a year in the future? It just seems to me like it's quite a bit different than if you're doing something based on a fiat currency, particularly like being, if you're doing stuff based on the US dollar, it could be very spoiled on a relatively, very stable currency. But if we're dealing with stuff that can tank or surge, how do we estimate that and how do we deal with that?
You've asked a very pertinent question, and most of our ICOs in Singapore are based on the ERC20. So most of them receive Ethereum, and as we all know, cryptos go up and down. That is a practical issue that we all, the mainstream guys will have to try to deal with, the accountants and the tax and even the tax authorities. The principle at the moment is that the crypto has to be valued in a fiat currency. That's the problem. And that is the principle which everybody has to, the accountant, the tax advisors and the authorities have to deal with. I do not have precedent at this point, and also I'm not a tax advisor or an accountant. But I think these are the things that the tax authorities are thinking about, and there should be more clarity in time to come.
The position today is that logically you have no money to pay on what you earn in crypto, whether it surges or it doesn't. It doesn't make a difference. You have to pay money on what goes into your bank account, and that's it. If you want to make an analogy, it's a little bit like, like a crypto token is like a contract in itself, all right? And you can make an analogy with, for example, when you buy rights on, I don't know, singers, songs, music, or something like that. I will buy like the music of Michael Jackson. Okay, maybe it will go up or down, I don't know, but it has no value in itself. The value, the thing I will pay taxes on, is the money I will make out of the music of Michael Jackson. You see what I mean? And it's the same thing. And that's the position today, but of course, we don't have a lot of recul. We need more examples in order to be certain, but that's the way it has been dealt with today, and I don't see why it would change, because usually you pay taxes on money. You don't pay taxes on something that...
Thank you. All right, I lied. We're going to do one more question right over here.
Thank you for your comments. Just going a bit from the funding topic and going to the gaming topic, there are I think there are problems in the gaming industry because when it comes to selling NFTs and trading NFTs, there are risks of money laundering that is happening already. And I don't know whether in the blockchain gaming space the topic is being discussed or is being addressed. Maybe Anne has more answers since you are in Ubisoft.
I think it could be a problem when you use the ICO and crypto. Of course, it could happen, but if you use rules and our regulatory system in France, in Singapore, or in Malta, all the government try to work on this problem. So, okay,
no, when it comes in gaming, it's global. You know,
I think it's the same. I think it's the same gaming or just the blockchain system. It's always the same problem. It could happen. But we have to do with that.
Yeah, it's not a new issue. It's something that has been existing since World of Warcraft and even before that. I mean, you had people trading gold in World of Warcraft for money outside of the game. And of course, you had people money laundering with that system. So what? Well, they got arrested because you actually have policemen and people who know how to. The thing for game companies is that sometimes they are not ready to deal with this. That's a point. Okay, it's normal to have. It's always the same thing. You have a lot of people trading goods in your game and exchanging goods in your game for money outside of the game. Well, at some point, you will have the police knocking at your door and asking for information. And asking you, okay, what is this? Where does it come? Do you know this user? Is it normal? Is that amount of trading normal in your game? Explain us. And it's a normal thing, and it's okay. Of course, it's maybe a loss of time for game companies, but I think it's a necessary loss of time because, we can't allow that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, there are laws on AML, even if they're not specific laws governing anti-money laundering, AML, and KYC, and it's happening in any industry where there are transactions of value. And blockchain, we all know, is not an internet of data; it's an internet of value, right? And you may have got more and more such problems. It's not an unusual problem because even in our brick and mortar fashion goods industry, there are also AML problems, and so companies, fashion FMCG, the branded goods industry, have got their own AML mechanism because the laws require them to do that. For the gaming industry, it's special in the sense that on the one hand, I see that it is a utility type token, but there is also payment type token, and it seems to me that at least for a country like Singapore, Singapore is trying to regulate the payment type token. If that is something that is embedded in your gaming system, then you will require a license, and you will have to specifically comply with the AML regulations imposed by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. AML is a tricky issue, and to me, it's just going to get more challenging for the blockchain, being an internet of value, and you are also seeing more and more interesting privacy coins like Dash and Zcash and Monero and Mimblewimble. You know, all these are privacy coins, which is very hard for you to identify the sender, the receiver, and the value, and also the tracking where the source of funds is coming from. It's going to be a challenge. Interestingly, just a few months ago, G20 were talking about cryptocurrency not destabilizing the financial system, has got benefits, but they are also coming up with some kind of AML rules to handle a concern such as what you have by October, and we'll see what happens in October.
Thank you.
So, thank you guys for sharing your expertise and knowledge. And our 3 experts will have the lunch with us, so you will have some additional time to discuss with them. Thank you.